And our first speaker this afternoon is Kevin Delaney, who is one of my colleagues within EPA. Kevin leads the ambient air modelling team within the ambient air quality unit. He's based here in Kilkenny. He also is responsible for remote communications. Now, that's not people going, what's going on over there? It's actually the telemetry between all of our systems so that you can get that data on time, real time, using the air quality index. It's all requires that all this equipment be linked up. So he's the man that makes it all work. Kevin has worked on air quality both at EU and national levels, and has worked in maintaining the equipment that all of this is based upon. So if the equipment doesn't work right, then you can't get the data out. If you can't get the data out, you can't get the information. If you can't get the information, you can't respond to it. So he's the man who, at the base of the pyramid, holding everything together. He has an MSc in environmental engineering from UCD and a BSc in pharmaceuticals and fine chemistry from GMIT. So without me saying any more about you, Kevin, please take the floor. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction, Andy, holding the whole thing up. A lot of pressure there. So good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Delaney here, and I'm going to spend the next 13 minutes or so talking about air quality in Ireland, in particular in relation to the Life Emerald project on air quality forecasting. So I'm a member of the 10-strong ambient air monitoring unit in the EPA that's headed up by Pat. It's split between Dublin, Kilkenny and Castlebar. So just in summary, what I'm going to cover, I'll talk about the historical background to the current point we're at with air quality, a brief overview of modelling. I'll present the current work on the Life Emerald air quality forecasting, and I'll finish off with some additional air modelling products that will become available later on within the project. So first of all, why monitor and forecast air quality? Well, it really is for the good of our health. There have been a number of major air quality events that have taken place over the last 70 years, and you're all probably quite familiar with these. In 1948, the Denora smog that took place in Pennsylvania that led to the death of 20 deaths over a short period of time, and 7,000 people became ill. The 1952 London air smog that led to 4,000 deaths and 150,000 people becoming ill. My better half at the moment has started watching The Crown, and she's convinced me to watch this as well on Netflix. Only starting out at series 1, but within that, episode 4 or 5 presents a dramatisation of that 4-day period in London, and it's quite riveting, and it gets across that whole insidious nature of air quality and its impact on your health. And then moving on, post-World War II and the rise of transport-related emissions and noxious air quality. In particular, the most cited example of this would be the Los Angeles smog events that have taken place. And of course, back home, we've had our own homegrown issues with air quality, in particular the smogs in Dublin of the early 1980s that were in part magnified as a result of the Iranian oil crisis of 1979. So just next on a brief history of air monitoring. I presented this slide previously. I put a bit of work into it, so I want to present it here again. I think it just gives an overall background to where we are at this current point. So back to 1939, the earliest monitored air quality results in Ireland that I can find were presented in 1940 for the year 1939 by Leonard, McVeary and Crowley, published in the scientific findings of the RDS in that year. Moving on then to 1963, the first volumetric sampler was introduced in the corn market in Dublin and in Cork for that year, looking at sulfur dioxide levels. Then on to 1973, the network had expanded quite considerably. Dublin Corporation and the ESB network had 24 monitoring sites throughout Dublin, and indeed there were additional sites that were added throughout Ireland in Louth, Limerick and Galway through those years. Also, citizen science projects were introduced at this point. There was a project in Cork and in Shannon looking at the air quality impacts on lichen at that point. I mentioned the 1979 Iranian oil crisis, and there was, I suppose, a government shift at that time that there was a need to reduce reliance on imported fuel at that point, to become more reliant on national sources of alternative energies. And of course, that had a major impact on air quality over the years, particularly the early 1980s. In 1982, the National Air Pollution Data Centre was introduced by the Environment Minister of the day. There was two of them. First half of the year, there was Peter Barry from Fine Gael, and then there was Ray Burke from Fianna Fáil. So take your pick of which minister introduced those. And then the EPA were formed in 1992, but of course the 1990 smoky coal ban was introduced. Dieselgate, which is very much a focus on erroneous reporting of NOx emissions, whereby real-world emissions didn't equate to what was published by the manufacturers of vehicles. And then we have up to 2017, the National Ambient Air Monitoring Programme. And then to add to that now, we have the Life Emerald Programme as well. So just quickly, what is air dispersion modelling? So an air quality model, it's a computer simulation of estimated ground levels of concentration, be that at road level, be that at city level, be it at national level or global level. There's many different applications for using air quality models, in particular for scenario analysis, for the introduction of measures, so to estimate if the impact that the introduction of a low emission zone would have. For example, for forecasting of air quality, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. And also, the outputs can be merged with other sources of data, such as noise data, because often they have common sources. It should be noted that there is more uncertainty associated with model calculations as opposed to monitoring calculations. So as there is uncertainty with weather forecasting, there is uncertainty also with forecasting air quality. So just moving on next, the Life Emerald project itself, it stands for Emissions Modelling and Forecasting of Air in Ireland. It's a 3-year project, but we got a 6-month prolongation due to the impacts of that pink elephant that was mentioned earlier on. In total, it's a 1.6 million funded project, 52% funded by the European Union and the rest funded by the Government of Ireland. The EPA are the coordinating beneficiaries within this, and we have 5 associated beneficiaries: ASMA Ireland, the Department, the HSE, UCC, who are our academic partners within the project, and VITO, who are a Flemish research institute, who are our technical partners within it. So just to look at it, this is just a technical slide on the project and the many elements that were in it. It goes from actions from A to E. So there's a lot of various parts to this. Of main interest here today, I suppose, are what's called the B actions, which would be the technical actions that the products are going to present are homed within. So looking at air quality forecast, well, first of all, say, why do we want an air quality forecast? Again, it's for the public and at-risk individuals to make informed decisions about their activities for the upcoming days. So if you're an asthmatic and you do carry an inhaler, or you're carrying it on occasion, if you're going to have poor air quality, you can take actions for future days. Or even if you're a member of the public, you're athletic, are you going to do that run or not, depending on what you predict air quality to be over the coming days. So within Life Emerald and the forecasting elements, the forecasting model types, there's a lot of Flemish acronyms that are used in this project from the model developers, VITO. So the forecast model type that's used is called a DOPAC system, and that's a model chain that incorporates a RIO model. So a RIO model is basically an interpolation part that makes use of the Careen land cover classes for Ireland, which are good descriptors for local air quality. And then that is merged with the OVL model, which is essentially a neural network model, and it's based on predicted meteorological parameters that go in there, along with utilizing the historical series of measurements on air pollution. So I suppose the advantage of the neural network model that's been implemented here is it's not computationally heavy. It can be run pretty straightforward. Plus, it it can make limited use of the information that's available. So with a deterministic model or a large-scale model, there's a huge demand on both resources and computing power to actually do this. So again, Vito are the model developers within this. It's been implemented in Slovakia, it's been implemented in Croatia, it's been implemented in Hungary Air and in Belgium as well. So we're joining a group and we can learn a lot from that. So, and again, this just presents an output of what this will look like. We have an internal dashboard that we're working through at the minute, and we can see that with those gaps between the monitoring stations have been filled in with a base layer map on concentrations of pollutants. So just in terms of a key part of this is evaluating the model. I should mention that the input, the metadata, is provided by ECMWF, the European Centre for Medium-Range Weather Forecasting, and also MET-EARN and the Harmony model that's available. So the key driver for the model. The evaluation of it, it's done in line with the Fair Mode group and the tools that have been developed for that. So in particular, the Delta forecasting tool, and indeed both ourselves, UCC and Vito, are heavily involved with the European Forum on Model Forecasting. So this is just a presentation, a slide on the current evaluation dashboard that we have set up within the project. It allows the system to be compared to other models, such as a persistence model, such as the European CAMS or the Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring System, and various candidates of the OVL model that are set up that we're going through at the moment with our technical partners, Vito, to identify the best candidates to be brought further for the Irish situation within the project. So just in terms of other Life Emerald projects, Laura mentioned earlier that there's historical maps that will become available. We expect that they'll become available towards the end of, towards the start of 2024, Q1, Q2, within that time period. That's utilizing the Atmos Street module from Vito. And also we have a nowcasting air quality product that's going to become available. So as you can see, the map on the left-hand side, that has our monitoring network of 103 stations. The expectation is to fill in the gaps within that, to have a base layer underneath it, and I suppose to have a more complete picture. And this is an image that's taken from the German Environment Agency that will have that map underneath and gives a lot more information on those gaps. So now just for something a little bit different, it's often hard to communicate air quality and the dynamic nature of air quality both in time and space. There's a similar project that's taken place within the UK that's been led up by Professor Bill Bloss at the University of Birmingham. It's called WM Air, West Midlands Air, and it's focusing on modelling around Birmingham, Coventry, and West Midlands counties. So as part of this project, they've engaged the sound artist, Robert Jarvis, to compose a piece of music to give sound to the dynamic air quality, the dynamic nature of air pollution. So roll it there, Roisin. Yeah, thank you.